Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to our weekly class on the Torah reading. This week being the portion of Vayishlach, which is a continuation of the story that began 2 weeks ago. I'll remind you that the story of Vayishlach begins 2 portions earlier. It talks about, over there we began the story of Yaakov and Esav, the 2 children of Yitzchak and Rivka, the second of our forefathers and our foremothers. And these 2 children are in a perpetual rivalry. They do not get along. The story over there was that Yaakov, through trickery, was able to gain their father Yitzchak's blessings. Instead of being bestowed on what Yitzchak thought was the firstborn Esav, Yaakov was able to get those blessings to be bestowed upon him. And as I mentioned 2 weeks ago, those blessings carried with it the whole promise of the Jewish people forever and ever. So whoever was going to get those blessings was going to be the blessed nation. And Yaakov manages to get it, and Esav is angry at him in an unforgivable way. He wants to kill him, as happens often. And he decides that he will kill him, and Yaakov has no choice but to flee for his life, and he goes to a place called Haran, which the story of last week's portion is Yaakov in Haran. In Haran, amazingly, he marries 4 women and gives birth to 12 of his 13 children. He had 12 boys and 1 girl. So he has 11 boys and 1 girl in Haran. And his last son, he will be born in the story of this week's portion.
He had a good time with Torah.
He was very fruitful. He was multiplying, was very fruitful. He was very holy. And he knew that what his destiny was and with the destiny of the family of Israel. And he lives there with his father-in-law, Lavan, who is a thief and a cheat and someone that cannot be trusted. But he lives there, and I'm not going to get into the whole story of last week's Torah portion, but he too, even Yaakov, had enough of Lavan, and he said it's time to leave this environment and go back to Israel. And he tells his father-in-law that he wants to go. I mean, he doesn't tell him, he actually leaves, and his father-in-law catches up to him, and they make a pact, and Lavan goes back to Haran, and Yaakov now goes to Israel. And he's now coming back to Israel, and that's how this week's Torah portion opens up. That as he gets back to Israel, he decides that he has to what's happening with his brother Esav? Is he calmed down after 20 years? It's 20 years later, or maybe even more. And it's 22 years, actually. And he's now, we got to find out what's happening with Esav. So he sends messengers to Esav. By the way, if you want to follow in on what we're going to read a little bit, the portion begins on page 202, or in English 203. And he sends to Esav a message. And he says to him, I am not the person you think I am. Meaning, you're all upset that I took the blessings from Dad. Those blessings didn't really work out for me. I'm a sojourner. I'm not really that successful, and so on. It didn't really. Don't worry. Don't be too upset about it. But these messengers come back and tell him that not only is Esav not placated and he hasn't calmed down at all after 22 years, but he's in fact ready for war, and he's amassed an army of 400 men, and he's here to kill. He's going to kill you. So Yaakov panics, and he prepares for war. He knows this is a big problem. So he begins to pray to God, and he prepares for war, but he also does something else. He tries, nonetheless, to dispatch to Esav, his brother, another message of reconciliation, but this time he does in the form of a lavish gift that he sends to his brother. Hundreds of animals and all kinds of things that I want to just be at peace with you. We're brothers. And he sends them off ahead of him to bring this gift to Esav. And he gives them instructions. He says, when he comes to you, when you meet him, and he asks you, who are you? You'll say, you are from my family. Don't hide your identity. Say it out straight. And that I've sent him a gift, and I want to be at peace with you, and so on. Which we hear from here, we see that now Yaakov is doing a dual thing here. He's trying to send a message of peace. He wants to, let's not fight. If we can work this out, let's work this out. But he's no fool either. He knows that the possibility of peace is not 100%, maybe not even 50%, so he prepares for war as well. And then when he prepares for war, he's ready to go all out and kill him if he needs to, and kill anyone that's in the way. What happens is, as he sends the people, he comes in front of, he's blocked by a brook. There's a brook. So he goes into the water and he starts transferring from one side to the other. And the last it goes back and forth, right? Takes stuff from this side up to that side. And then he goes back and brings more stuff. The last time he went back, he meets someone. He meets a person, what looks like a person, who's now in a wrestling match with Yaakov. This is actually in the story itself. And he's struggling with him. He's wrestling with him. He's in a boxing ring, like in a wrestling ring. And he tries to throw him over. And this man, who happens to be, according to the sages, he happens to be the angel of Esav, the guardian angel of Esav, who came down in the form of a human being, and he was sent by Esav somehow from heaven to go fight to eliminate Yaakov. But he's unable to. They wrestle, and what he does is, this angel, when he sees he can't knock him out, he gives him a strike on his hip, the sciatic nerve, and he damages it, and Yaakov now is limping. He's limping. He is damaged by it. And what's interesting is, this angel then tells Yaakov, all right, it's time I need to go back to heaven, so to say. It's time for me to sing praises in heaven. So he said, you're not going nowhere till you bless me. This is such an interesting conversation. He's here to kill him. He can't kill him. He strikes him, but he says, before you leave, I want you to bless me. And he says to him like this, one of the most famous verses in the Bible, and I'm going to read it together with you. It's on page 307. 207, yes. It's verse 29. Well, we'll start from 28. The angel asked him, what is your name? And he answered, Jacob. The angel then said, so I'm not going to read, I'm only going to read the bold. The bold is the biblical words itself. The rest is the rest of the story. So he said, the angel then said, no longer will it be said that your name is Jacob, but Israel. For you have striven with me, God, and with men, and you have prevailed. So what happens over here is like this. Yaakov's name is Yaakov. He got that name at birth. We all know the story. He was holding on to Esav when they were twins. And Esav came out of his mother's womb first. And Yaakov was holding on, the second baby, Yaakov was holding on to the heel of Esav. And the heel in Hebrew is Akev. So his father called him Yaakov. To always remember that holding on to the heel of Esav. What's the significance of the holding on to the heel? Okay. So now the angel tells him, your name will not be Yaakov anymore. It will be Israel. That's how we have the name Israel. Because we're all the Bnei Israel, the children of Israel. Because we all come from Jacob. What's Israel? See, he says, because the name was, the etymology of the word Yisrael is Sar Kael. Yisrael. Which means, Sar means master, and Kael is, of course, God. And that's what he's telling him. You have mastered over God, meaning me. You fought me and I couldn't win you. You won me. You mastered over me as an angel of God. And over men. Which men did Yaakov outsmart and master and win the battle against them? Esav and Lavan. Lavan was he was a tremendous hater of Yaakov, even though he was his father-in-law, for crying out loud. But he hated him and wanted to eliminate and take away all his children from him. Don't ask. And you won both. You won God and you won men. And because of that, we're going to call you Yisrael. Now this is an interesting verse which we'll get back to. So hold it off, keep it in your memory, and we'll get back to it. And that's the end of that. He blesses him and he goes off, and that's the end of that battle. What happens next is quite amazing. By the way, because he was struck by the angel, he hit him on the sciatic nerve, so that became non-kosher. Even when you're going to slaughter a kosher animal, you have to remove that part of the animal as a mitzvah. It's one of the 613 commandments that you're not allowed to eat the sciatic nerve because of what happened to Yaakov. It's actually in here. Now, what happens next is quite remarkable. And I'm going to spend some time on it too. Yaakov now goes back over. Now he's with his family. And they're now realizing that the fateful meeting with Esav is about to happen. Esav comes along. He sees him from a distance. And look at what happens over here. Take a look at page 209. This will be on verse 3 and 4. Let's see what it says over here. He went ahead of them. Yaakov went ahead of his family because he was afraid that Esav would attack. He doesn't want them to be in the front line. He wanted to be the first. He went ahead of them and prostrated himself 7 times as he approached his brother, meaning Esav. So he's showing, humility and, again, a gesture of, I'm not interested in this fight. I got my cannons and my tanks right behind me, but I'm not interested in using them. I want to be your brother. Esav ran towards him, embraced him, and threw himself on his neck, and he kissed him. And they wept. That's the verse. So what's happening over here is so interesting. Esav over here, in a moment of an instant, he changes his whole attitude and feeling towards Yaakov. Here he is coming with 400 men to kill him. And he's not placated till this moment, but as he sees his brother, he runs over to him, embraces him, and then kisses him. And that, brothers-in-law lovey-dovey again, right? And then he asks him, who are all these family people that I saw, that I met? And he says, those are my children, and so beautiful, beautiful thing. And then Yaakov and Esav tells Yaakov, let's go back to Israel, to father's house, and we're brothers and we'll love each other. I want to go back with you to Israel and live with you, Yaakov. And Yaakov says, it was Israel, yeah. It was the land of Canaan. But it was promised to Abraham already. It wasn't called Israel because he just got the name Israel. So he says, I'm going to go with you and live together and sing. And Yaakov says to him, thanks, but no thanks. Your kiss was wonderful, your embrace was great, but you go ahead and I'll come later. We can't go together. Why? And he says to him, because you're alone with 400 guys, they're all adults, you guys can move quick. I have women, I have children, they're young, they're babies, they're not capable of going at your pace, your speed. You go ahead, I'll meet you one day. Now what's interesting is that the sages tell us that what Yaakov was telling his brother Esav over here was, it's more than that, it's much more than that. That's true, but it's more than that. Yaakov and Esav, Yaakov was telling his brother Esav, if the problem was the pace, Esav could have told him, I'll go slow, don't worry, I'll stop off in this restaurant, I'll do some sightseeing, I'll keep at your pace, don't worry about it. But he didn't say that, because there was a deeper message here. The peace between Yaakov and Esav, if it's real, that's the end of, that's the culmination of all the problems that, what is one of the biggest problems that we have in this world? Discord. Evil against good and evil are always in a battle. Yaakov good, Esav is evil, and they're always fighting. That's our life. We have within us two sides of our heart, two souls, the good and the negative, the Yetzer Tov and the Yetzer Hara, the good inclination and negative. They're always battling each other. Yaakov and Esav all of a sudden are making peace. It's great. Mashiach can come. But Yaakov understands that Esav is not yet. This isn't real. We haven't reached that point yet. And therefore he tells Esav, you got to go ahead. You and I cannot yet live together, and we're not yet at that point where we're in sync and so on. You go ahead, and when Mashiach comes, I'll meet you. And that was, in fact, the last time Yaakov saw his brother Esav. I don't think they meet ever again. Do they? I take that back. Actually, I do think they met again. But for a very brief moment, I think. So don't quote me on that. But that was it. There was no more interaction between Yaakov and Esav. When Mashiach comes, it says, that's when we will.
What was the reason he wanted to go first? Because he didn't trust him.
No, because he didn't trust him. That on a basic level, he wasn't ready to live with him yet, because there was no, the time hasn't come yet. But he also felt that on a more globalistic or cosmic level, Yaakov and Esav, representing the forces of good and the forces of evil, are not yet in a place where they can live together. Okay? Yes, we still fight. We're still fighting till today. That's what I'm saying. That's why Yaakov said we can't yet. We're not there yet. This is not yet. It's not the reality yet. Esav's descendants are very much around. That's the Roman Empire.
But I thought a lot of them were defeated and converted.
But the Christian world is Esav's descendants. The Christian world comes from Esav.
And
Ishmael is a totally different thing. Yeah.
but he was building his family.
Yeah, he was doing that. He's already by now. He's not here anymore. The Arab world comes from Ishmael. That's a different story. I think he was dead already by then. He wasn't alive anymore. I don't think he was alive anymore. Yeah, wherever he was. I mean, it's irrelevant. I mean, where he lived, you want to know which city, where exactly he was living? Doesn't say. I don't know. It doesn't really say. He came, but he came later, and he lived together with Israel, with Abraham, and he came back to live with Abraham, and Abraham died, and he went on his own. He went married and built families and lived happily ever after. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to quickly go through the rest of the portion, and then I want to zero in on two things, with your permission. The next thing that happens, he sends his brother away. He comes back to Israel fully. He's now in Shechem, and he settles in the city in the place called Shechem, which is today is known as Nablus. Very, very rough place even today. What happens over there next is quite shocking. He's living his life. His daughter Dina goes out one day to Sawgrass Mall in Shechem to go shopping and to make some friends, see what's going on there. And she's abducted and raped by a man by the name of Shechem. No, Shechem himself. Shechem himself was the son of Hamor, and he went ahead and abducted her and raped her. And he fell in love with her, and he wants to marry her. And he goes to Yaakov and his sons, he says, we want to marry. They're furious at what happened. They violated our sister. That is unforgivable. And they devised a plan. They had all the males, they made a deal. If you do what we can't marry you, because they wanted to marry her. So they said, you can't marry her, you got to be circumcised to marry our daughters. So they made a deal. They'll have all of the Shechemites, the males, circumcised. And once they do that, then we'll be able to intermarry. It'll be wonderful. And they bought into this. They went ahead and circumcised themselves all in one day. And then on the third day, when they're the weakest, the two brothers of Dinah went ahead and slaughtered the whole entire city in one day. Killed everyone, all the men. And Yaakov wasn't happy with this. He saw that as a little bit extreme, that was an overreaction. But they said, no, it wasn't an overreaction. Under no circumstances we allow our daughter to be a zona, which means a harlot, to be treated like a harlot, like she's some kind of what. And they blamed the whole entire city that they were culprits, and by the laws of the 7 Noahide laws, everyone was guilty, and they were right. They were right. Which is a separate issue. One day I'll give a class on collective punishment, which comes from here a little bit, But there wasn't collective punishment because they were all guilty. Anyway, they go, that's what happens, and the next thing is Avram makes his way down south. Jacob, he moves down south. He wants to go now back to his parents, and on his way down, his wife, Rachel, gives birth.
Why does he go from Haran, a terrible place, and then choose to go to Canaan, but he chooses a terrible city there?
Well, he doesn't know that it's a terrible city. You can that argument you can make about every city in Canaan. They were all pagans and bad neighbors. So he chose that. He bought a piece of property there. That was the first place that he can settle when he came from a long journey from Haran. He figured he'll take, sit there for a little bit, and then he'll go down south, which is not what he does. And his 12th child, his son, is born on the way down. His wife, unfortunately, very sadly, dies in birth. She dies while she gives birth. So Benjamin, the last son, is born here, and she dies. And she's buried in Bethlehem, right there on the side of the road. I don't know if you're ever there, but I was there in 1982, when it was before the Palestinian whole peace process, and before they had to make the place a fortress, because we have peace, of course, so that's why you have to make the place a fortress. But that's what they did. But then it was right on the side of the road, in a little building, what do you call whatever, I don't know what you want to call a mausoleum, I don't know what it's called. She was there, and no one around. It was like off the beaten track. A half hour later was the Cave of the Patriarchs. If you had to travel 30 minutes further, is the Cave of the Patriarchs, 30 minutes with a car, obviously. So it would have been a day's travel with his in the olden days. But he doesn't bury her in the Cave of the Patriarchs. He buries her on the side of the road. And Yaakov has an explanation for this.
Is that from where we learned that you have to bury quickly?
That would have been very legitimate had he taken her to Hebron. But there was a reason why he buried her there. The reason why he buried her there, and he will explain this to Joseph in a number of portions from now, where he feels that Joseph, her son, has a heart on the fact that he left her on the side of the road and didn't bury her in the cave of the patriarchs and so on. And he explains that what he did, but the sages tell us that Rachel was destined to be buried exactly where she was buried, because when the destruction of the temple would happen some 1,000 years later, the Jews would go out of Jerusalem, be driven into exile out of Jerusalem into Babylonia. They would pass Bethlehem on the way. And this was a place where they can cry out their hearts to their mother Rachel, and she can bring their prayers up to heaven so that they, so this was, she sacrificed herself not to be buried in the prestigious, cave of the patriarchs with Abraham, Yitzchak, and eventually Yaakov, and Sarah, Rachel, Sarah, Rivka, and Adam and Eve, and she's on the road because she was there for the Jewish people when they needed her most. And that's what a mother is. She forgets about her own wants and sacrifices her life for her children 1,000 years in the future. So that's why she was buried there. And then we come to the few other little incidents. The end of the portion talks about Esav and everyone that came from him. And that's how the portion ends. But I want to go back now, okay, to two of these stories. Number one, this struggle that Yaakov has with the angel. And number two, this story with Esav and Yaakov as they meet after 20 years. He's preparing to kill him, and in a flash moment, he has a change of heart, and he runs over to his brother, embraces him, kisses him, and he wants to make peace with him and live happily ever after right around him. What's going on over here? So the sages talk about this, and Rashi quotes it. And Rashi brings two opinions about this. Now, if you take a look, I want to show you something interesting. That when you read it the first time, you probably didn't pay attention because you read it in English. But when I'm going to show you one Hebrew word here in this portion that's very unique in the Torah scroll. You know what it is? Yeah, very good. If you take a look on page 208, the third line from the bottom, in the Hebrews, in the Hebrew, you see over there, Vayichabkei. The first word of the line is Vayichabkei. He embraced him. Vayipol al tzavorav. He fell on his neck. Vayishakeu, and he kissed him. You see the word Vayishakeu? There's a dot on every single letter, and that's how it is in the Torah scroll as well. By tradition, we have a dot on each one. Now, we have a tradition, now Rashi says, it's dotted, because when you have a word with dots, it means it's coming to teach you something. That word is not to be understood literally as it is. Because most people would think, and here there's two opinions on this word. That's very interesting. There's two opinions on this word. What does Vayishakei mean? He kissed him. The two opinions, they're debating, it's impossible that he kissed him for real. This must have been he was giving him, it's a lip service, right? But he didn't mean it. He hated him. A minute ago, he wants to kill him. So this can't be real. So they're saying that's why there's a dot on the thing, because it wasn't real. Another opinion says there's a dot on the thing to teach you that it was real, because the natural thought would be that it wasn't real. But over here, for a moment, his heart melted, and he kissed him with all his heart. Now, the first opinion says that he didn't mean it. And they quote a passage of the sages that has become known throughout history to the Jewish people, know this passage, and they live with it. And the passage is, Biyadua Esav Seina Liyankiv. It's in Rashi. I'm not going to be able to, to show it to you, but Rabbi, he quotes it, and he says like this. Said Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, it is a halacha. It's a law in nature, so almost. Biyadua, it is known, she'esav seina liyankiv, that Esav hates Yaakov, no matter what, he hates him. But in this moment, he had a feeling suddenly for his brother, and he kissed him with all his heart. But you should know that that's not the nature of Esav. The nature of Esav is that he hates the Jewish people with a passion. And this passage has become almost like a slogan, if that's the right, not a slogan, but something that the Jewish people always have at the front cortex, the front of their mind, always remembering that while we're in exile and we're living amongst, in places we're never comfortable, we're never to be, we should know that it can turn on a dime, it can flip on a dime, in no time. Because ingrained in certain people, in Esav, is that he hates the Jewish people. Now the Talmud talks about this. But before I go to the Talmud, I want to go back to the other story, which I told you I would get back to, which is the struggle with the angel. What's the angel? The angel, I said, was the angel of Esav. That was his guardian angel. He came to eliminate Yaakov on the way when he's coming back to Israel, as I mentioned. Huh?
In the beginning, they said that when you said that Jacob sent the angels and he didn't.
Those are the other angels.
Right,
Yeah.
I know. Those were the other angels, and then it says that he wasn't able to, that Asa wasn't able to interact with the angels because he wasn't at that spiritual level.
No, he did. I don't know if he interacted with them, but they came back and gave a report that he's preparing for war. He wants to kill you. So no, I don't think he did much of interaction with them. Okay, and this, conclude your question.
Before he couldn't deal with the angels, but then now he's got an angel that's.
He has his guardian angel. It's not exactly a good angel. It's an angel that comes to kill Yaakov, to struggle to knock him down. Huh? He's a epitome. Yeah. What?
Where's Yaakov's guardian angel?
Yaakov had, believe me. What do you think? He won the struggle. He wins over an angel. What do you think? So the point is, what's interesting over here is, and I told this to you in the last number of weeks that we were learning these portions. These portions are the paradigm. This is history, and it's what plays out between these two brothers, and Yitzchak and Yishmael, and Yaakov and Esav, and this whole story is the story of the Jewish history forever and ever. And what's the story of our history? Wherever we went, most of our history we were in exile. Whether it was in Babylonia or Egypt, then Babylonia, then Persia, then Rome, Greece, then Rome. We're always in exile, for the most part. And wherever we are, we're confronted with major struggles with the people around us, who've taken us into exile, who have captured us. And just like by Yaakov and Esav, Esav continues to try to scheme to kill Yaakov, to eliminate him, but he's unsuccessful. He sends an angel after him, and he struggles with him, and he knocks him in the side. He gives him a strike on and he ends up limping. And that's really the story of the Jewish people. Take the last 100 years. We've limped. There's no doubt about that. We've been so attacked so many times, whether it was through Germany, the communists, the Bolsheviks, you name it. There's no doubt that they strike us. They get some wins. They end up hitting us on the side nerve, and we end up limping. We lose a little bit of our equilibrium. We lose a little our balance. Look at us. When you think about it, after the New World, after World War II, when you talk about, I forget about World War II. Let's talk about World War I and the pogroms of the late 1800s. The Western Jewry, the Jewry of the West, which is America, Europe, of the last 100 years is a result of that. And the last 70 years, 80 years is a result of World War II. What is the result? Most of the Jewish people are not fully into Judaism and serving Hashem the way their great-great-great-grandparents did. We think we're doing great. And if you have to be in exile, there's no question this exile is the best exile we've ever been in. However, spiritually and even physically, we are limping. There's no question about it. Spiritually, we're certainly limping. And even physically. Israel has to deal with all the problems that they do, as what happened to us in the last few years. That the whole society is limping as a result. We'll get back to ourselves, no question about it. But we get struck on the side. But they always try to not only strike us on the side, they try to eliminate us. And we struggle, and we always win.
You can't eat the most tender part of the cow.
Is that the most tender part? I don't know. I don't know. Is it that delicious? It could be. I don't know. I don't feel like I'm missing much. I don't feel like I'm missing much by not eating the sciatic nerve, I can eat tongue and I never eat tongue, So. I'm not. I've eaten tongue before, yeah.
If Jacob gets a new name, and Abraham gets a new name, Isaac never got a new name.
No.
Was it worthy of it, or was it?
There was no, he wasn't. That's not that he wasn't worthy of it. I could talk about Yitzchak's name. Yitzchak's name is the most bizarre name of all the names. When you think about it, what's the name? You know what the word Yitzchak means? It means laughter. It means laughter. So there's a lot of significance there. You put it up a little. Yeah. It means laughter.
Thank you.
What is? Yes. Why laughter? That's a funny name to give your kid. But that too is a name that you probably don't want to change. The Jewish people will learn throughout exile that laughter is essential to their survival. They need that as much as more than anything else. But there's a lot of significance. I don't want to go into that now. It's not the subject of today's portion. I do want to talk about the two names, Yisrael and Yaakov. I thought you were going to ask a different question, David. I thought the question you were going to ask is, ever since God changes Abraham's name from Avram to Avraham, never again in the Bible or anywhere else in Scripture or wherever is the name Avram ever used again. He's never referred to as Avram ever again. It's always Avraham.
What is it, H?
H, yeah, the hey.
But Jacob, we always.
But Yaakov and Yisrael, it says very clear, name will not be Yaakov anymore. It will be Yisrael. And yet, we have and in fact it says, anyone that calls Abraham Abram without the H is violating a Torah injunction, a Torah law. Because it says, your name shall not be called Abraham anymore. So we have no right to call him Abraham. And if you do, you're in violation of a Torah, a mitzvah. But it says the same thing by Yaakov. Your name shall no longer be called Yaakov, only instead it will be Yisrael. And yet we freely talk about Jacob. We call him Yaakov we call him Yaakov more than we call him Israel. Give me the names of the three. How many times do you ask a kid or an adult, tell me the three names of the three fathers? No one's ever going to tell you Abraham, Isaac, and Israel.
Well,
You never hear that. It's always Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. In the Siddur also, it's Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov. Oh, that's the question. I thought you were going to be the question.
For some reason they put it that way.
So I'll answer this question today. Today I'll answer it. The answer is because the Torah continues to call him Yaakov. The Torah continues to call him Yaakov. His name is, after that verse where it says the name will no longer be Yaakov, it'll be Yisrael, his name Yaakov appears hundreds of times in the Torah after that point. So of course, if the Torah is going to keep calling him Yaakov, we could call him Yaakov. But the question is, why does the Torah continue to call him Yaakov?
Maybe they're referring to Israel as your progeny. For now on, you being everyone.
No, I don't think, no. I think so. But here's the answer to that. His name was, it says over here, we read it actually before. It's on page 207. It says over here, no longer will it be said that your name is Yaakov, but Israel. So his name is going to be Israel. Now, what are these two names? We know what the two names Avram and Avraham means, right? We spoke about that in the past. Avram means he's the father of the local where he came from, Aram. Avram, the father of Aram. Avraham means you're the father of Hamon Goyim, many nations. And that's why He can no longer be called Avram because indeed his status changed. He became the father of many nations. Once he had Yishmael and he had Yitzchak and they had, Yaakov, and he became the father of many nations. So it would be wrong to limit him and to go back to the old name Avram, where he's just, a localized leader. He's not a localized leader, man. He's a father of a multitude of nations. What are the meanings of these two names, Yaakov and Esav? I'm sorry, Yaakov and Yisrael.
The land of Israel is named after Jacob.
Sure, that's where the name Israel comes from. Bnei Yisrael, the children of Israel, Eretz Yisrael, the land of Israel, Am Yisrael, the nation of Israel. These are all comes from Yaakov, because he's the father of all the Jewish people. He's the father of only the Jewish people. Avram is the father of the Arabs and the Jews. Yitzchak is the father of the Romans and the Jews, many nations. But Yaakov, everyone from him is Jewish. That's why he's the main father. Yisrael. That's why we're Bnei Yisrael. We're not called the Bnei Avraham. Bnei Yitzchak. We're called Bnei Yisrael. Because he's our father. Only us. But what do these two names mean? Yisrael, I explained. Yisrael means he's a master over men and over God. That's what the angel, when he gave him that name, he explained, you're the master over not only God, not only men, but even over God. Because he always wins wars. He always wins battles. Even against God. He has an angel coming to fight him, and Yaakov wins. He says, you're incredible. You're master over of God and Israel, God and men people. So that's why he called Sar Yisrael, which is Yisrael, master over God. Yaakov is a different meaning. You remember what I told you his name was? Why they gave him the name Yaakov? Because he was holding on to the heel of his brother Esau when he was born. His older brother, the brother that came out first. What has that got to do with anything?
The foundation, standing.
Yeah, what is, okay. So, there's another thing you have to remember in this whole story. If you remember, we learned 2 weeks ago, when Yitzchak gave the blessings first to Yaakov, he tricked him out of it, right? He disguised himself, he made himself look like Esau, and he gets the blessings, he leaves. As he leaves, so happy, he got all the blessings, Esau walks in to get a blessing, he brought them food, he gave the way his father instructed him. And his father told him, what's going on over here? I just gave you the blessing. No, what do you mean just gave me the blessing? I'm Esau. He says, who was here before? Yaakov. Oh my God, he came and tricked me out of the blessings. So Esau says these incredible words. Why don't we read it together? I always like to see it together because it's very powerful. Go to page 169. Right on top of the page.
Yaakov is persistent. He's pugnacious. He doesn't give up.
Doesn't give up, no matter what it takes.
It's taken him 20 years to
That's
get
right.
all the women.
Look at these words. Look at the words here. He replied, your brother, he meaning Yitzchak, replied, your brother came with guile and took your blessings. The next verse, Esau said, is that why he was named Jacob? And now he gives a little commentary. Yaakov from the verb akov, ensnare, foretelling that he would someday ensnare me twice. So the word Yaakov means ensnare, to trick. And if you see it in the Hebrew, the second line, the third word, Vayakveni. The word Yaakov is there, right? Yaakoveni. Vayakveni. That's why it was called Shmo Yaakov, Vayakveni Zeh Pamayim. He tricked me twice. First time when he bought the birthright from me for a bowl of soup, and the second time now with these blessings. So the word Yaakov means trick, ensnare. Yisrael means I'm a master. I don't have to trick. I'm in control. When do you have to trick someone? When you're not in control. You have to come in the back door. You got to ensnare. You have to. When you're not in control, you have to, beguile. You got to do things in a roundabout way, in a way that not everyone's realizing what's going on, And by the time you finish the thing, everyone realizes what happened. You've done, you tricked everyone. So this Yisrael means a person that doesn't need to trick anyone. He's total mastery of the situation. I'm in control. You have to listen to me. I dictate what happens. When you're in control, you dictate. Now the question is, these two names, the Jewish people have these two names, Yaakov and Yisrael. Are we in control? Sometimes we're in control, and sometimes we're not. In the human being's life, especially a Jew, if you ever learned the Tanya, Kabbalah, where was I? Oh, the Alter Rebbe lays out in an organized way and explains that every person has two personas, two souls. You know that, anyone that learned Tanya. The Tanya says that there's the godly soul within the human being, within the Jew, and there's the animalistic or human animalistic soul. The godly soul is the soul that, it's a full persona with attributes. It pulls us towards godliness. The human animalistic soul pulls us towards self-centered, goals, pleasures, and things like that. And these two souls are at odds all the time. And we spoke about it a couple of weeks ago also. We mentioned this. The godly soul is called Yisrael. Because the godly soul is in control of his destiny. He knows what he wants, and so on. But the godly soul is not alone in this world. It's instilled or put into a body with a human soul with completely different interests. And these two souls have to figure it out, how to live in peace. And it's not always easy to live in peace. The godly soul is pulling one direction, the human soul is pulling the other direction. There's very little peace in our life. You wake up in the morning and you have a struggle. Should I go to shul or should I go play tennis? Should I go to eat kosher or should I not eat kosher? Should I keep Shabbos or should I not keep Shabbos? Should I go to shul on Shabbos? Should I go watch my favorite television show? It's a non-stop struggle between the godly and the human soul. That's life. That we know life. That's how life is. How does the godly soul take mastery of the situation? He has to trick the animal soul. Hold on. It's very easy to say. It's not easy. It's easier said than done. The human soul, or the drives of the animalistic self, are pulling in one direction. So how does the godly soul, when it wakes up in the morning, wants to go to shul? The human soul wants to turn over and press the snooze button and get an extra 10 minutes and then another extra 10 minutes until he has no choice. He's got to get out of bed. So how do the godly soul convince the human soul, stop pressing snooze, get out of bed, wash your hands, and go to shul? How does that happen? When he's really not in the mood. He has to tell him, there's a good kiddush after shul, there's delicious food, there's a lot of interesting people there. It'll be good, you'll enjoy it. Go, come with me. It's good. You'll enjoy it. Come and let's go.
No, I think it's more Jewish guilt.
There's better ways to do it. You don't have to guilt anyone into it. You can tell them how delicious it is. And so on and so forth. I can give you every mitzvah like this. You have to convince, you want to go to learn on Tuesday night Torah. I'm sure that there's I have a lot of competition on a Tuesday night at 7:30. On television, there's a lot of things going on. On your phone, there's a lot of interesting things to see. You can talk to your wife, you can talk to your kids, you can just sit and relax. There's a million different things you can do. So what does the godly soul have to do? The godly soul calls the rabbi of Chabad and says, do me a favor, on Tuesday night, could you put some tacos on the table on the side? Get the animal soul in there. I can't convince him. He's not interested. So you put out tacos and some good meat, and you get him in. What?
They were
They're really good, exactly. All of a sudden, the animal soul says, not bad. I'm coming along. I'm not so in opposition to this anymore. So it turns out that life, in a big way, is one big trickery. It's one big trickery. The godly soul has to always ensnare the animal soul and the body to come his way, to come along with him in the journey of godliness, of Torah, mitzvahs, and so on, where the human soul is not really interested. Now, you can train it, do more, it becomes second nature, becomes habit, no problem, you can do certain things. But there's always a perpetual struggle. However, not always do you feel the struggle. On Yom Kippur, do you struggle to come to shul? Pressing the snooze button. You're going to shul, everyone knows, you gotta be in shul on Yom Kippur, and you don't need to trick the human soul into it. There are days in your life that you have full mastery of the situation, that Yisrael shines, that you are a master of your destiny. But there are days that you're not a master of your destiny, that your animal soul is very strong. When your animalistic soul is very dominant, then you need the Yaakov element in your life to trick it out, to snare it, find ways to trick it into doing the right thing. There are days you don't need to do that. There are times in your life you're on a high, you're on a spiritual high. Something good happened to you, you got a new job, God was kind to you, you feel you want to give charity, you want to go and bless God in the synagogue. You feel like, you don't have to convince anyone. You both, godly and animalistic soul are both on the same page. That's the name Yisrael. When we feel we're a master of our situation. But that's not always the case. And because it's not always the case, Hashem said this nation, this Jewish people, will forever be called both names. Yisrael and Yaakov. And the Torah continues to call us by both names. Because these two names represent our life, our existence. The first Jew, the first father of all the Jewish people, Yaakov, he wasn't the first Jew, of course. Avraham was the first, Yitzchak, then Yaakov. But that father of the Jewish people, that was the father of only the Jewish people, carried these two names. Because that's really the destiny and this reality of this nation. They have two souls within them. They're in a perpetual struggle. Sometimes this one's higher. Sometimes this one is a little more dominant, and this one has to trick it in. Sometimes, and that's how it is. Sometimes we're masters. Sometimes we're Yaakov. Sometimes we're Yisrael. Sometimes we have to trick. And you want to hope that more often than not, you're a master of your situation. Now, how do you become a master of your situation? I've explained this many times. Take a person. It's what?
Studying, so you're convinced.
Correct. But I'll give it to you more in detail. And with this, I'll conclude. Take a person, for example, that the people around this table, not all of you grew up as religious people, right? Let's take tefillin as an example, or Shabbos candles, right? The mitzvah for the men, the mitzvah for the women. I've had people take on putting on tefillin every day. I've convinced people, I've inspired people, they've taken it on. Some Shabbos, every person according to his pace. I watch this, and I see this. When someone is inspired on Simchas Torah, Rosh Hashanah, whenever, okay, I'm going to start my birthday, I'm going to start putting on tefillin every day. The second, the third day, it's exciting, but then it wears off the excitement. And it becomes a little bit of a burden, a struggle. If I miss a day, not the end of the world, right? You fall into it, you fall out of it. But what happens is, after a number of months go by, and the person was determined, he overcame those temptations to forget about it, right? And he pushed through for 4 or 5 months, and he's putting on tefillin every day. You know what happens? Tefillin becomes your routine, and it becomes second nature to you. And when you miss a day at that point, if it happens, you feel like, oh my God, there's an emptiness. Something's wrong. I'm not happy. I missed film today. It's like you're not at peace with yourself. 6 months ago, we didn't even think twice about it. Big deal. I didn't put on film. I never put on film. And then half a year later or a year later, if you miss it by accident, you feel like, oh my God, there's something, I really missed a part of my oxygen. It's like I'm not breathing well, There's something is missing now. Suddenly, it's not only, you're doing it. You feel attached to it. It becomes part of your identity. What happened over there with this person is he did it enough times where he became a master of it. He no longer struggles with tefillin. Yisrael. He became Yisrael with the mitzvah of tefillin. Other people with kosher. Other people with Shabbos. And the trick is, not the trick, the goal is that every so often you should take another mitzvah from the realm of Yaakov and transfer it over to the realm of Yisrael. Where this mitzvah is no longer a struggle for me. Take a woman who's lighting Shabbos candles. In the winter, it's 5:15 in the afternoon, 5:12. 5:12 is the middle of the day. It's like, that's it, the day is over, 5:12. But imagine for 6 months she goes and says, I'm going to do it on time every single Shabbos. And then, boom, she misses it. It's the same thing. I've seen this. Rabbi, I missed it. What do I do? Can I light it? No, you can't. It's too late. You can't do it on Shabbos. And she doesn't. She feels very empty inside. This can't happen again. Suddenly there's a certain attachment to Shabbos that you never knew you had, that you never had. That a year ago you would say, you didn't think twice about it. Today it became second nature, and you begin to feel, if I don't have it, I'm missing something. Seriously missing something. You've taken the Shabbos until now was a struggle. Today you became a master over it. And that's why we have both names. Avram didn't need to keep both names. There was no point. Yaakov and Yisrael represent the struggle of the Jewish people, where they go through life, and every single month, every year, you hope that you move one mitzvah at a time away from the realm of Yaakov into the realm of Yisrael, where you become a master over it. And that's really the real message of the Tanya. Tanya would like you to be a master of all the mitzvahs. But we're not there. So that's it? So there's no place for you in Judaism? No, there is. Become a Beinoni, right? Become that hero. Become that Israelite. So there's a Yisrael on one mitzvah, another mitzvah, third mitzvah. And little by little, your identity becomes stronger and stronger with Torah and mitzvahs, the Judaism. And you become a master of your life. You become a master of your Yiddishkeit. Now, there will always be a struggle. There's always another level where you're not a master over. But the more mitzvahs you are a master over, the more connected to Hashem you are in a real way. That becomes your identity, becomes your essence. And that's the story of Yaakov. It's really the story of each and every single one of us. He struggles with Esau. That's the story of the Jewish people as a whole. Anti-Semitism wanted to knock us out, but they hit us on the hip and they damage us. Till Mashiach comes, we're damaged. Sometimes we're better. Sometimes we get a bigger hit. Sometimes it's not such a big hit, but we get hit. That's the way it is going to be. That's the story here. That's why the story is told to us. Why do I have to know what happened on the other side of a brook 3,000 years ago with an old man Yaakov with an Esau? Who needs to know this? It's not his story. It's our story. That's the destiny of the Jewish people. And you should know that Esau is always going to be at odds with you. They may kiss you and embrace you here and there and make you feel like, oh, we love you, we're at peace with you, this is great. But it's got a dot on that word. Never forget those dots. Never forget those dots. What?
Doesn't America represent modern-day Rome?
Yeah, it does. The West is Rome. The West is the descendants of Rome, yeah. Of Edom who Esav. Esav who Edom. That's Edom, yeah. And that's Esav. So we get kissed sometimes. But there's a dot on that word. It's so profound. Every one letter of that word has a dot on it. to tell us that kiss isn't always real. Don't be fooled by it. And be careful. And don't let, if Hazel offers you, let's live together, and let's go back together, you send him ahead. You have to know your distinct place, and you can't allow yourself to be sucked into the assimilation and the whole, that whole thing. And the two names of Yaakov is our story. Yisrael and Yaakov, it's really our story of every single day of our life. We master and we ensnare. It's all going on at the same time. Sometimes we're masters, sometimes we have to trick. Go ahead.
Does the Torah uses these names specifically in certain circumstances, like the names of God, that it uses when it has something to do with related to nature or beyond nature?
It's a good.
Does it use his name in that same sense in the Torah?
That's a very good question. The answer is, I'm sure yes, but I have not done a study to look at every single time Yaakov is used and every time Yisrael is used to know, this is why Yaakov. But everything in the Torah is exact. It's precise. So if it chooses to use Yaakov in certain cases and Yisrael in other cases, there's got to be a reason for it. There must be a reason, yeah.
What if you do a mitzvah unknowingly? Like you're saying you're the master of lighting candles or master tefillin. In the Southwest, there were the conversos who used to close the windows, turn
Southwest? Where was that?
Southwest United States, in Texas and stuff.
I didn't know that, okay.
So what they used to do was, on Friday night, they would shut all the windows,
Light candles.
turn the pictures of the guy next door, turn them around, and light candles. But it became a tradition. That's just what families did. We do this.
Right, I heard about that. No, I didn't know it was in the southwest of the United States. I thought it was more in Caracas, Colombia, the South American country that came from Spain.
Right, they would have came from Spain, right? Exactly. But
So what's the question about them?
So these people are performing the mitzvah of lighting candles.
Oh, yeah.
But unknowingly, they don't know why they.
So you're asking if they get merit? Is that your question?
Or are they? You're saying the people who do it are the masters of they're mastering the mitzvah, but.
No, not always by doing it are you mastering it. Sometimes you are struggling with it, and you have to ensnare. You have to trick the other side to go along with you by enticing it, giving it good kugel and good cholent and good kiddush.
But is it the knowing? I'm knowing that I'm going to light candles because versus just doing it as.
No, I think if they're doing it, usually when you do a mitzvah, you should know that you're doing the mitzvah. That's when it really counts. If you're doing a mitzvah and you don't even know you're doing a mitzvah, I don't know if you get that much reward for such a mitzvah because you don't even know you're doing a mitzvah. Unless you know you're doing a mitzvah, then how much you know, if you have a profound knowledge, but these people know they're doing something that they're supposed to be doing as Jews, right? Or they don't even know they're Jewish.
I think it lost its.
Yeah, you're probably right. With some of these families, they don't even know why they're doing it anymore. It's just they think it's some kind of Christian idea that came down, or whatever it is they think. That's a very interesting question. Do they get the mitzvah for doing Shabbos candles? I tend to want to believe that they do, but it's a good question. It does say that a person that, for example, on the night of Pesach, let's say a Jew on the night of Pesach is in a tavern. He's not intending to do a seder. He's not doing anything, and just happens to be that in the meal that he ordered, there was matzah there on the menu, and he ordered matzah, not knowing even know that it's Pesach. He doesn't even know it's Pesach. But it happened to be on the night of Pesach, he ended up eating matzah. Imagine that. Is that a mitzvah?
Yeah, the mitzvah of eating matzah.
Okay, but he doesn't even know it's Pesach. He doesn't know that Pesach is supposed to eat matzah. He doesn't know anything. So is that considered a mitzvah? It's not so simple. There are debates about that. Yeah.
Somebody who does a mitzvah that's really challenging.
That's different.
No, but if you use that the same circular argument, so the mitzvah counts more if it's really challenging, or it's the same thing.
No, it doesn't count more if it's more challenging,
It doesn't count
but it does count. But you have to know that you're doing a mitzvah. if you don't even know you're doing it, it's hard to make the argument that he's. So when we talk about reward and this,
Are you really supposed to be doing the mitzvahs because of a reward?
no, but you're supposed to do the mitzvah to serve God. If he doesn't even know that it's a mitzvah, he's not really serving God. That's the argument, not for a reward. Is this considered serving God? Is he? The person that doesn't know it's Pesach, doesn't know you're supposed to eat matzah on Pesach. It just happened to be that the house that he was in, they were in the mood of matzah that night, not even knowing why. So they ate matzah on Pesach.
But the person lighting candles.
I would give you, what I would tell you is, let me tell you a story, and with this we'll conclude it tonight. I heard the story from Rab Mendel Futterfass, a big chassid that I knew. He was in the gulags for many years. And he didn't have matzah on Pesach every year. They sent it, and if it got through, he was lucky, and if it didn't get through, he was unlucky. He didn't do matzah on Pesach sometimes. But he did remember that it was Pesach, deeply remembered that it was Pesach, had a great passion to eat matzah that night, and with in absence of the matzah, he read the Haggadah from memory, and he made the seder with what he had. Bitter herbs, he had enough in the gulag. That was no question about that. But you get the picture. He doesn't have matzah, but he's reading the Haggadah. He's in touch with God. He's in touch with the concept of Pesach. Did he eat Did he get the matzah? Did he get the mitzvah to eat matzah on Pesach? No, he didn't. He had all the best intention, but he didn't eat matzah. On the other hand, imagine you have an American 17-year-old who's going out with friends. He hears a big game on Saturday, on Seder night. He doesn't want to miss it. He comes home and tells his mother, "Ma, I'm not going to be able to Seder tonight. I can't miss this game. I always waited for this, and it's the college football, and I'm going." He said, "Are you crazy, Danny? You can't go to this Seder night." "No, Ma, don't bother me. I'm going." What does a good mother do? "Okay, Danny, what am I supposed to fight with my 17-year-old? Yes, you should fight with him, but okay, whatever she did. She gave in. But she packs him up a bag and says, "Listen, Danny, over there, it's after 8:15, it's sundown, eat some matzah. Eat matzah in the stadium. I'm packing you a bag of matzah, and you're to eat matzah in the stadium, because it's Pesach tonight. I want you to eat matzah tonight." And he says, "Okay, I'll do that for you, Mom." And he takes the bag and he goes to the stadium, and as they that ball is gone, right? They hit a home run. Oh, no, I'm sorry, I said football, right? Yeah. As he's enjoying the football, that matzah that's a mitzvah, because he knew he was eating matzah on Pesach. He knew it's a Jewish thing to do, and he did it. Rab Mendel, with all the intentions, did not get the mitzvah, and this Danny, with his enjoying football and looking at the screens to see the statistics of the game, and the Haggadah was the last thing on his mind, he's chewing down matzah after 8:15 at sundown, he got a mitzvah. So that's true. But who was a master? This kid wasn't a master. Rab Mendel is a master, although he didn't have the mitzvah. So that's the point. It's a different concept a little bit. Let's continue next week. If you have any questions, I'm going to close the video. I'm going to shut it. I want to thank everyone who's watching. Have a wonderful day. Let's master our mitzvahs. We should be a master on our connection to God. Every time a little more. Make another mitzvah habitual. Make another mitzvah part of your identity, part of your routine. And then you master. You don't have to trick yourself or your other side to go do the mitzvah. They're both doing it together in full sync. All the best, everyone. Enjoy.